I do have a rudimentary understanding of separation anxiety, and I'm happy to answer the questions I'm qualified to answer during our Q&A, but I don't endeavor to take these cases on personally, nor can I offer more than basic advice personally. If you'd like a referral for a CSAT, please contact us at acc.behaviortraining@sfgov.org. And I'm going to drop that email in the chat right now. And we'd be happy to send you some referrals. Separation anxiety cases can often be worked on with a trainer remotely over Zoom or Skype, and the trainer often does not have to visit you in your home at all. So you have a lot more trainers to choose from, and you may find yourself hiring someone halfway across the country. Next, I want to mention that there is a big difference between separation or isolation distress and true separation anxiety. Separation anxiety is a medical diagnosis, but the general public tends to use this term to refer to all dogs who have trouble settling when they're alone. According to a research paper published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior in 2016, only about 17% of dogs suffer from true diagnosable separation anxiety. The truth is that separation-related problems for our dogs cover a very broad spectrum. Some dogs may experience a few minutes of intermittent mild frustration and barking or pawing, and then settle down for a nap. Others may exhibit full-blown medically diagnosed separation anxiety and present more serious panic behaviors such as self-harming, intense pacing, a need to escape and reunite with you, home destruction, and digging and chewing beyond natural puppy boredom. Many dogs fall somewhere in between this spectrum. All right, so I can definitively tell you that dogs who are having a hard time being alone are not angry with you. They are not spiteful, they are not stubborn, they're not being dramatic, or any of the other human-centric emotions people often attach to them. These dogs are experiencing anywhere from mild insecurity to a legitimate and panic-inducing phobia, similar to forcing someone on an airplane who has a deep-set fear of flying, or someone who has arachnophobia and putting them in a room full of spiders. Dogs don't have the same cognitive abilities that we do, but they are well aware of what makes them feel good and produces desirable results, and that which doesn't, which they seek to avoid. Whether your dog is having trouble with being alone because of a genetic predisposition, this is often breed related, an upsetting upheaval in their lives, such as moving or loss of a family member or a pandemic, traumatic experiences, or the result of being a pandemic puppy, which we refer to lovingly as the puppies who may have been acquired during the pandemic and maybe missed out not only on their alone time training, but also their socialization in general. We need to treat these animals with compassion, patience, and understanding. They do not require a heavy hand. We don't recommend letting them cry it out, and the problem can often get worse if we implement punishment in these cases. Lastly, it's always really important to me personally to mention that dog training is a completely unregulated field. Literally anyone can call themselves a dog trainer and take money from paying clients using whatever methods they choose. Some of these methods simply suppress behaviors using punishment without addressing the underlying motivation of that behavior, ultimately causing harm to the dogs and potentially making the problem worse. Some of these methods trick uninformed consumers into thinking their dog is fixed, when in reality they have shut down and are no longer offering any behavior due to fear of consequences the trainer has imposed. We want our dogs to be happy and confident during and as a result of training all the time. The tips we'll be discussing today are not designed to help dogs with diagnosed separation anxiety. I highly recommend you seek out a qualified trainer if you suspect true separation anxiety or even milder alone time issues if you're having trouble resolving them yourself. Vetting a trainer prior to hiring them includes asking them what their qualifications are, if they can provide references, and asking the golden questions: what will happen to my dog if they make the right choice during training? What will happen to my dog if they make the wrong choice during training? So TLDR, buyer beware, be a smart consumer when it comes to dog training, because we really need to be on the lookout. All right, so the tips I'll be providing today were gathered by my amazing colleague, Paula Benton. She is a certified dog trainer who's been working with SFACC for over 12 years. Paula also runs a nonprofit called Full Belly Bus that assists and supports San Francisco pet owners who are currently unhoused. And I highly recommend you check them out and consider donating because they are an incredible organization. I am dropping a link to Full Belly Bus in the chat. We'll be discussing tips again that are designed to help your dog before you return to work. Training should happen when your dog is calm and content, or what we would refer to as under threshold, not when they're in the midst of experiencing distress over your departure. All right, with all that said, we are going to get started. Our first tip today is don't delay, start today. What that means is if you have not left your dog alone in quite some time, today is your day. Please understand that the longer you put off this valuable skill building, the harder it may be for you and your dog to succeed. Our next tip is have patience. Patience is a virtue when it comes to dog training. If you've recently moved or adopted a dog, it is reasonable that he or she will need time to transition to a new routine, home, neighborhood, or family. Mild separation-related problems are extremely common when dogs are in new situations like this, and they often fade away within a few weeks. So I get foster parents all the time who get a dog into their home, and within the first or second day, they're like, oh my God, this dog has separation anxiety. What do I do? And I'm like, you know what? It's probably transitional anxiety. Let's just give it some time and see if it takes care of it ourselves. And there are some things we can do in the meantime to support that dog and help them with that transition. All right, our third tip is alone time is fun time. Teaching your dog to associate your departure with something she loves is key. There are many very successful learning tools you can use, such as food puzzles or fun hunt and seek games. You can research some of our favorites online. They include Nina Ottoson puzzles, stuffed frozen Kongs, snuffle mats, hide a squirrel plush toys, and interactive tumbler type treat dispensers. I can attest to how important this tip is because this is what I do with my dogs every day when I leave for work. The last thing I do before I leave home is I hand them their food in puzzle toys that take them several minutes to get all the food out of. And as a result of this, they have learned to associate me leaving with, oh, it's breakfast time. Not only is it breakfast time, but instead of feeding them out of a plain old bowl in which they can horf it down within a couple minutes, they have to spend several minutes getting the food out of whatever puzzle toy it is that I've offered them that day. It works great in my home. An old standby in this vein is to sprinkle a generous handful of kibble throughout the room. I personally can't do this because of issues with ants, but this will keep your dog occupied right before you leave. As they eventually catch on to this simple hide and seek game, tuck some kibble pieces in, under, and on top of furniture or under things in the room to add more difficulty. Again, if you don't have ant issues. When offered consistently, any and all of these positive associations will encourage your dog to look forward to your departure rather than dread it. Our next tip is called ping pong. Contrary to what you may have heard, take care not to make your departures longer and longer each time. It's normal for us to think, okay, I'm going to leave my dog for 1 minute, and then tomorrow 2 minutes, and then I'll try 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and the next day 15 or 20 minutes. But this is actually not the way that we want to do it. You want to avoid accidentally increasing your dog's frustration or distress with predictably longer sessions. Instead, you're going to build in success by ping-ponging the length of time you're gone. For example, today you might leave for 10 minutes in the afternoon, tomorrow try 5 minutes in the morning, and then 15 minutes in the evening. So back and forth, unpredictable. Our next tip is sounds good. Leaving on a talk radio or a chatty television channel like HSN or QVC can help mask outdoor sounds your dog may overreact to with excessive barking. I do this in my home. Most of the time, my dogs are listening to Bob's Burgers or one of my other favorite talk, not too like explosion-y TV shows. White noise machines can also assist in muffling environmental sounds coming from outside of your home. Our next tip is eliminate before you vacate. This is an important one. Take your dog out for a 15 or 30-minute relaxed neighborhood walk before you leave them alone. The opportunity to stretch their legs and pee or poop will surely add to their comfort when you are gone. However, take care not to exercise them in high aerobic activities prior to your departure. This is one that we hear a lot, like, oh, I took him for a 2-hour-long run. I thought for sure he would be exhausted and way too tired to make a fuss when I leave. But actually what we're doing is we're getting their heart rate up. We're getting all those chemicals in their brain flowing, their brain, adrenaline and such. And we're leaving them with all those chemicals flowing after that high aerobic activity. So try to keep it relaxed before you leave and take them out for a nice leg stretch. All right, our next tip is this bed is just right. We all know every dog has his or her own preferences regarding just about everything. As your dog's personal private investigator, it's your job to discover their alone time location preference that provides comfort and security. Be observant. Is your dog most secure in a cozy den-like crate lying on one of your t-shirts or chewing on a Benebone? Are they most comfortable in your living room, secured by baby gates, or snoring on the couch? If your dog feels secure alone in your car because they have a 360-degree visual connection to the world, try positioning them near a window in your home before you leave. Find out what is just right for them. Paula, the trainer who wrote all these tips for us, she actually has a dog who suffers from separation anxiety, and she has found that allowing him a view outside of her home through a window really alleviates a lot of his anxiety. So we have lots of cute pictures of him just constantly being the neighborhood watch on her block. All right, our next tip is clear the decks. In preparation for leaving your dog alone safely in a designated room, put yourself in his paws and scan the environment from his point of view. Remove any and all household items that may beckon him to chew, gnaw, or swallow. Taking just a few minutes to do this every day will help avoid hindering his progress and encourage success instead. Remember that dogs do not know the difference between the things that are dog legal and dog illegal. It is our job as the humans with the big brains to remove those temptations from them completely so that we don't come home disappointed that our belongings have been destroyed. All right, our next tip is say no to no. If you return home to find your dog has had an accident or made a bit of a mess, please do not punish them. Simply put, they will sense that you are intensely unhappy with them, but they will not understand why. They do not have the same connection building skills that we do, all right? Punishing them creates confusion and frustration. Instead, while you tidy up, be careful to take note of the place where you left them and the things that you left him with. This can be invaluable when you're investigating his alone time location preference. As certified trainers or soon to be certified trainers, we see a lot of internet memes of guilty dogs, and I can tell you definitively that dogs do not feel guilt. When you come home and they are making that face, it is because they are anticipating punishment because of the way that you are presenting yourself. It is not because they feel guilty for what they have done 15, 30 minutes or 2 hours prior. All right, next is be a good neighbor. This is an important one, especially in a place like San Francisco. We are packed to the gills. Contact your neighbors and let them know that you are working with your dog to help him feel more confident and comfortable when left alone. Make them aware that they might hear some barking or whining and ask if they will be participants in your training process. Give them your phone number and ask them to contact you directly if they hear excessive barking. This can really smooth out some of the relationships that we have with our neighbors, especially if they know, if you make it clear to them that you are being proactive and you are trying to address this. A lot of our neighbors might just assume that we're just being negligent pet owners when really we are deeply in the process of trying to correct this. All right, next tip is don't leave me this way. Sometimes leaving our dogs is harder for us than it is for them. I know it certainly is for me. Take this into consideration. Make your departure as normal and easygoing as it would be if you didn't have a dog. Try to avoid over fussing, and just, you don't have to necessarily ignore your dog, but just move about your day as if you were leaving, and it's no big deal. The same rings true for when you're re-entering your home. Your goal is to normalize this procedure for you and your dog. I, of course, say goodbye to my dogs when I leave, and I still say hello to them when I come back, but I don't fawn over them. I don't make it a big deal. It's not a big explosion of emotion. It's very casual, and that, I think, helps ease any stress that they might be feeling. All right, our last tip is I Spy. Ever wonder what your dog does when you're gone? Set up a video camera or mobile phone and record your dog's behavior after you've departed. I just adopted a new dog October of last year from ACC, and I was very quick to set up a camera and see how she was doing when we left the house for short periods of time, to see if she could handle it, to see if there was more that I needed to implement in order to help her feel more comfortable. This was instrumental in our success with her alone time, and I highly recommend it if you can. This will give you an accurate picture of what your dog looks and sounds like when alone, and valuable insights into what's working for her and what's not. All right, so those are all of our tips. Preparing your dog for life after COVID by teaching him to rest and sleep confidently when alone is important for his overall health and well-being. Dogs, like young children, need a great deal of rest each day. The average young puppy requires approximately 16 to 20 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. And the average, because they're doing a lot of growing in that time span, the average adult dog requires about 12 to 14 hours. Wouldn't it be nice if we got that much sleep? Try each of these 12 simple steps to help your dog have successful, restful time alone. And remember, please start today.